Coming up next on Arizona Horizon, it's the Journalists Roundtable. We'll look at the week's top stories, including the governor's vow not to sign any legislation until budget talks resume. The Journalists Roundtable is next on Arizona Horizon.
Arizona Horizon is made possible by contributions from the Friends of Arizona PBS, members of your public television station.
Good evening and welcome to Arizona Horizon. I'm Ted Simons. It's Friday, and that means it's time for the Journalists Roundtable. And joining us tonight, Howie Fisher from Capital Media Services, Mary Jo Pitzel, a contributor to Capital Media Services, and Jeremy Duda from Axios Phoenix. And we should note that Jeremy's wife works at Arizona PBS. All right, panel, good to have you all here. Thanks for joining us, Howie. We're going to start with, where have we heard this before? The governor says, give me a budget, give me an idea, or I'm not signing anything.
Well, let's see. I've covered 9 governors. Pretty much all of them have at some point said, look, time is running out. We need a budget by June 30th. We know it just doesn't happen by magic, as much as we'd like to believe it. She has decided not just that she wants a budget deal, she wants to see their budget. Her argument is, look, second week in January, you got my budget. I have a $1.8 billion spending plan, excuse me, a $17.8 billion spending plan, and here's how I want to pay for it. Some of it, according to the lawmakers, a little blue smoke and mirrors. Says, okay, what do you have in mind? Well, we're not going to tell you exactly, but we know we don't want this, we don't want this, we don't want this. And she finally walked out and said, I've had enough.
Yeah, is that going to be enough to get budget talk started again?
Well, not immediately. I mean, what will get budget talks going is as they get closer and closer to the deadline, which technically is June 30th. But there's a lot of reasons to try to get that done earlier, like an election that's happening, on July 21st. But right now, the Republicans are working on their own plan. They said they will, when they get it done, she's probably not going to like it.
Yeah, Prop 123, 123, the education extension here. Is that playing a major role in all this?
I mean, it played a major role in Governor Hobbs walking away from the budget negotiations, or their staffs were meeting, not the Speaker and President and Governor themselves. But when she announced that she was pulling out of those budget talks, Prop 123 was really front and center in terms of the reasons, because the Republicans say we don't actually need the governor to do this, and the governor said, well, I want to be part of that. Now, with this moratorium, with the veto threat, that's not really part of this. I specifically asked, like, hey, you want something on 123? He said, no, we just want to see their budget plan. Not even, actually, they've even given them a budget plan. John Kavanaugh, the Senate Appropriations Chair, told me, he's like, oh, we gave them a budget, back in February, and back to the governor's office, said, well, what about that? I said, well, we think they should, yeah, sure, but we wanted them to show the people. We think it should be public. So it actually doesn't seem like that big an ask in terms of these bill moratoriums, which we see pretty frequently. Just show us the budget, and then they'll fight for 2 more months about an actual deal.
Well, the problem with 123 is, as you know, back in 2016, voters approved this measure, and it takes additional money out of the state land trust for education, and that provided about $330 million a year extra for K-12 education, above what the normal withdrawals. Expired last year. Okay, for the moment, the general fund has picked up the difference, so schools haven't lost any money, but the governor's position is, okay, if we go ahead and renew 123 for some period of time, we free up that money for some of the other priorities that she has. She has a bunch of child care things and housing, things like that. And then there's the question of who gets the political credit, which is the other thing that's hanging this up, because you have people like Jake Hoffman saying, well, if we give her 123, we might as well just give her the governorship.
I was going to say, and he's basically said just that. I mean, he was very clear about that.
Yeah, I think give Senator Hoffman credit. He's pretty clear in what he's saying. But they've been leaning in the last year on the general fund, is how he said, filling in that money that 123 provided. But hello, this is a budget deficit, or very tight numbers on the budget. It would be helpful if there was this stream of funding renewed, but you've got to go to the voters to get that, which couldn't happen before November. So the state general fund is going to have to put some money in anyway, and maybe they can just, cross their fingers, hope that the governor's race comes out in favor of a Republican governor, and then you can just find a way to pay that other half year and then renew it. And it'll be to the credit of the new governor and the legislature.
And on Prop 123, I mean, regardless of whether the governor is part of these talks or not, I think it's pretty much accepted by at least the Republicans down there that we're not going to see anything happen on this year, not just among the Republicans, not between the Republicans and the governor. The Republicans can't agree amongst themselves on what they want to do this because there's a big faction down there that wants to kind of tie this to protections for school choice programs. I mean, I think particularly top of mind would be ESAs, which Hobbs and Democrats are frequently targeting, frequently going after. Other Republicans don't want to include that. I think there's some concerns about what that would mean at the ballot box. I mean, the original Prop 123 barely passed. So it's, to Mary Jo's point, making that difficult to count on for that revenue for the budget. But, the Republicans can't agree on what they want amongst themselves. And if they could, we would have seen it already because they don't need the governor's signature to put this on the ballot.
But this is just part of the budget problem. You have a governor who's built a budget on $760 million coming from Washington. Now, it is true that the big, beautiful bill had $12 billion for to reimburse states for border expenses. The governor says we're due $760 million, including like $200 million we spent putting up and taking down that stupid border wall of trucks. But none of that money's been given out yet. That's part of our budget. Part of our budget is we're going to do means testing for ESA's vouchers. And she says we can save like $88 million on that. Well, that's a non-starter for Republicans. Then she has a plan to raise taxes on a couple of things, a nightly fee on vacation rentals so that she can get some money for some home energy efficiency, and then raising money on the firms that do online gambling, for the sports gaming. Again, all non-starters. And again, her point is, okay, well, what do you got?
And Mary Jo, back to your point regarding timing here. This is an election year. If it stretches out longer, who gets antsier? Governor or some of the folks in the legislature who are running for higher office?
I would think the latter because the primary is July 21. I mean, the governor might be worried, but she doesn't have really a race to run until the November. So we got a lot of lawmakers down there that are either looking to return or move on to a different seat, and it's very hard to get out and campaign if you're locked up coming in, every day for maybe an hour to hear a bill or two and vote on it and then go home and then come back the next day and sort of rinse, wash, and repeat.
And there's another particularly important point. Legislators cannot take money from lobbyists while the legislature is in session. And I'm not saying lobbyist money is all of it, but it's certainly nice to have a little fundraiser by the realtors or the trial lawyers or whomever who can bring in money, but not while you're in session.
All right, let's move on here, Jeremy. There is a big it's going on, I think, right now in North Phoenix here, the TPA Turning Point Action. President Trump is in town for this event. Anyone who is anyone in the Republican Party seems to be there in Republican Party politics, but not Congressman David Schweikert. What's going on here?
I mean, Trump endorsed Andy Biggs in that primary a long time ago. It was actually a dual endorsement with Biggs and Karen Taylor Robeson, who's no longer in the race. That dual endorsement does not transfer over. It's the one and only. You got to kind of wonder if there would have been a point to actually for David Schweikert to show up in what's going to be a pretty hostile crowd. I mean, Turning Point has thrown its full support behind Biggs. They're actively helping his campaign. You can look at the campaign finance reports. They've been helping out. That's a top priority for them is getting him through the primary, which looks pretty likely right now. I mean, I think the much bigger problem for David Schweikert right now is if you saw the campaign finance reports this week, not looking great for him, and he did not raise a lot, and he does not have very much on hand. That seems like it's a much bigger problem.
Also, it's a way for Schweikert to differentiate himself from Biggs. I mean, Biggs spoke at the event today. The president's there to promote his candidacy. How do you separate Andy Biggs from David Schweikert? Well, here's one way, and the president's having some moments where his popularity is on the wane. I don't know how long that'll last, but the numbers are showing that there's a lot of unfavorability for him. So maybe Schweikert's trying to make that appeal to discontented Republicans.
And Turning Point is obviously not a huge fan of Congressman Schweikert's, especially after the attack ads against Congressman Biggs regarding the associations and the friendships with anti-Semitic people and white supremacy people. I mean, you know, it's a rhetorical question. We know why he's not there.
Yeah.
But in a Republican primary, he's got to get out of the primary, Howie. He's got to get past that.
Well, and that's the point that I think Jeremy was making. I mean, Andy Biggs, as the last campaign finance report said, he had like $1.7 million in the bank, and that's, you know, after expenses through the first quarter. Congressman Schweikert has $88,000 in the bank. Now, according to his, you know, chief campaign person, well, yeah, A, we got a late start, and B, yep, the money's going out the door as fast as we're doing it. But you've got to remember that people who give money want to know that the money is going to something. And you get to a point where they're saying he's running, you know, double digits behind Mr. Biggs right now, with early voting starting actually in 10 weeks. And B, you know, if you only got $88,000 in the bank, even if you put in some more money, you know, what's it going to do? Now, here's a really important thing about having only $88,000 in the bank. He loaned himself $99,000, and he moved like over $500,000 of congressional money in there, and still has only $88,000 in the bank.
Yeah, Jeremy, before we move on, he also kind of went after Turning Point, said the fringe of the fringe. They wiped out conservatives over and over, and they support unelectable candidates. So, I mean, I guess if you're going to scorch the earth, you might as well just give it a good burn, huh?
Sure, and Schweikert's, you know, his big talking point since he got into the race has been the electability. He's the candidate who can beat Hobbs that Andy Biggs cannot. That, you know, he's basically saying Andy Biggs is going to be this year's version of Kerry Lake, and he's the person who could win that primary, but you got to, or win the general, but you got to get through the primary first. And Andy Biggs just looks like he's been running away with it for a while.
Yeah, Howie, let's stay with the governor's race here. Who is Hugh Lytle, and why is it a big week for him?
Well, Hugh Lytle is the candidate of the No Label / Arizona Independent Party, because we're as of what is it? 5/17 right now or so. It's a No Labels party, but there's an appeal on that. That's a whole separate issue about whether they can change the name. He's decided that Arizonans want a different choice. And they may, if you look around, if you're going to be Andy Biggs or Katie Hobbs, and there are a lot of people going to say, I don't think so. Now, he's put in $1 million of his own money, so he's got a running start. What happened was, apparently he decided, he looked at the form where it says, put down where you live. And he put down a UPS post office box up on Hayden Road in Indian Bend. And he got a challenge from some Democrats. Not surprisingly, they don't want him on the ballot. And the judge said, yeah, it's true, that's what it says. But nobody was fooled. He was in substantial compliance. He lives in Scottsdale. This address was in Scottsdale. He was the only Hugh Lytle on the ballot. No one was confused, and so therefore he can stay on the ballot.
I'm sorry, Mary Jo, but a post office box sounds awfully cramped.
Yes, and Mr. Lytle even conceded that he does not live in his P.O. box. The judge said, look, he's running for a statewide office. This establishes that he's an Arizonan. He's here in Arizona, so that's good enough. It'd be different if it were a legislative seat where boundaries matter, although there are exceptions to that too, but that's another story.
Yeah, and the judge, this quote I thought was interesting. We don't remove names from ballots for mere technical departures from statutorily required forms. Well, that's an interesting way for the judge to put it.
I thought so too, because there are a lot of situations in other parts of election law, especially with citizen initiatives and referendums, things like that, where you will pay a very heavy penalty and not get on the ballot for things like that. And that kind of shows the difference between how the lawmakers who make these laws view those types of campaigns versus the campaigns where they're the ones who are going to be getting on the ballot.
Isn't that interesting? I mean, for all the cases, and I know we've all looked at them, a lawmaker who allegedly does not live in their district, and you go try to, Don Shooter was a very famous example of that, and years ago, Sylvia Laughter. And you go run it down, and you think you got the goods, and it goes to court, and the judge says, well, it's where the candidate, believes that they reside. So even though the statute says one thing,
yes.
So I've often wondered why we even bother to require that people live within the boundaries of their district, or in other words, why bother?
Congress.
Why have a redistricting commission if it doesn't matter really where you live?
Well, the really interesting thing, for those who have been around, is we remember 1986. Carolyn Warner, who was state schools chief, Evan Meekum, running for governor. Meekum managed to beat out Burt Barr in the primary. It was a surprise. And Meekum was our Donald Trump, if you will. All of a sudden, Bill Schultz, who had been a Democrat, who had considered running, and then didn't run the primary, said, "Oh, wait, I feel a draft," and he came in, and he divided the Democratic vote, which is how we got Ev Meekum. And I think there's a lot of concern, particularly from this governor, that he could be the Bill Schultz of 2026.
Which is why the Lytle campaign, I think Lytle himself, blamed the governor for what he called voter suppression for this particular suit, this particular challenge.
Well, I don't know if we can tie it to her, but I know that the guy who's supposedly the titular name on the thing is a regular Democratic contributor. The law firm are people who represented the governor in the past, both professionally and personally. And so, of course, they're behind it. And clearly, they believe that he's going to be a problem.
Ruben Gallego, Senator Gallego's long friendship with Eric Swalwell is getting the once over twice here, and he's taken some hits, Senator Gallego is.
Yes, in fact, was it today or earlier this week, a Florida congresswoman,
It was today,
went on social media and said, well, I know of a woman who allegedly, was involved with Swalwell and something involving something to do with sex. It was pretty vague. She didn't name names except for Ruben Gallego and Swalwell, and didn't really provide any details that can be checked out. But we keep hearing all these stories that more will be coming out.
And Senator Gallego said that he was blindsided by Swalwell, and all he had heard with Swalwell was flirty. I mean, they were supposed to be really good friends, Jeremy.
Oh, they were very close friends for many years in Congress. Senator Gallego was the chair of Swalwell's short-lived presidential campaign. But he said, the way he described it was, I asked, when these rumors started to surface, I asked him about it. He denied it. He said he felt, he was lied to. He felt betrayed. He's clearly no longer friends with. Former Congressman Swalwell, because he's since resigned. This is obviously, the knives are coming out. Anyone who wants to take a shot at Senator Gallego right now is taking the opportunity. We've heard, as Mary Jo mentioned, these very vague allegations. We've heard I don't think we've heard anything from any actual accusers. One of the allegations was from George Santos, who is perhaps far from the most credible of sources. So we've heard a lot of guilt by association so far.
But there is that association between the two, and it has to rub off a little bit.
Of course it does. I mean, there's this beautiful picture of the two of them with their wives vacationing in Egypt, on top of camels in shorts and shirts off. I'm not getting on a camel with a pair of shorts. Lord knows what's
good to
catch. Hear. But they're together. It's a variation on the whole Epstein thing. How close do you have to be to somebody? Look, we all get fooled. I've had close friends. I had no idea they had a secret life. But there was always suspicions. And how do you? They basically lived together in Washington for a while. They were roommates. How do you not know? How do you not at least suspect that something isn't kosher?
Does that take a hit? Gallego, of course, obviously with Senator Kelly, considered early kind of presidential timber by some folks. Is that taking a bit of a hit?
Oh, I think so. I mean, it's presidential mentioning, I think, is like where they're at that stage. And that's part of the reason why there is so much attention right now to this, because his name is out there.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's not going to be helpful.
Senator Kelly's name is out there as well, as we mentioned. He raised $13 million in just a few months after that illegal orders video.
Well, when you take on the Secretary of Defense and stand up for, as he casts it, for his First Amendment right to talk about, give this warning that you don't have to obey illegal orders, which has been found to be, that's certainly exercising your First Amendment right. Yeah, that really got a lot of people's attention. And he won in court.
Yeah, he did indeed. And a lot of small donors, Jeremy, sounds like. So a lot of folks contributing there.
Tons of them, yeah. Like Mary Jo said, about 13 million. I think he had similar from the last quarter where that whole feud first started. And if you look at how much he's got on hand, it's about over 22 million, I think, and some of my colleagues at the national team at Axios put together a chart showing all the Democratic hopeful, potentials for president, all 10 of them or whatever at this point, and their fundraising numbers. And Mark Kelly actually has the most money on hand right now of any of them. Now, is he going to run? Is he not? who knows? But he doesn't have a re-election for a while, so that money might get put to good use somewhere.
2028. I mean, we talk at Gallego's numbers, and he doesn't have anything till 2030. So I mean, and his numbers are minuscule compared to this. But does this? We asked about Gallego taking a hit. Does this help Kelly's presidential mentioning or timber?
Well, I think it does. He needed an issue. I'm not meaning to be insulting, but he really hadn't honed in on anything that was his. You know, I mean, he talked, as did all the Democrats, about, you know, Minneapolis and what was going on with ICE. This finally gave him an issue. He says, I am a combat pilot. I am an astronaut. You know, you try to take away my rank and my retirement because I said what is actually on the wall of West Point in terms of saying you do not obey illegal orders. I mean, it gave him something that he didn't have before, which was an issue.
Yeah. Mary Jo, I know you were interested in this and wrote about this regarding the 2024 election and the findings on illegal voting. What were those findings?
Yeah, so for all the concerns that, you know, something's amiss with how elections are run, a review that Arizona participated in comparing 2024 election results with those voting patterns with other states. Out of 3.6 million votes cast in Arizona, they found 28 instances of potential illegal voting. The AG's office took a look at it. They sent warning letters to 25 of these people saying, records show that you voted twice, you know, in Arizona and in another state. Their Arizona vote counted because that was the first ballot that they cast, but so that there's nothing to prosecute there. But they're still looking at 3 other cases, including one of somebody who looks like they voted a dead person's ballot.
Yeah.
And what's important, to Mary Jo's point, is all we constantly hear, and this starts off with our friend Mr. Heap, we started talking about earlier, which is at what point do we say we've looked? It's a variation on the fraud sometimes of the 2020 election and 2022 and 2024. And they keep saying, clearly you're not looking at the right things. Now, is this the be-all and end-all in terms of everything? For Arizona, it is. Remember, this is one state that already has a SAVE law that you have to prove proof of citizenship before you can even get a ballot. And if we're already doing that and we're not voting in multiple states, what's the big problem?
Well, is it the be-all and end-all for those who still believe that there is some sort of election hanky-panky going? Is there any evidence that would convince those folks?
I don't think so. I mean, they are committed. They are true believers. They are going to believe this no matter what. I mean, I think we've all had conversations pointing like, well, what about this? What, like, you know, the audit, the so-called infamous audit, you know, that was debunked, you know, every which possible way. But there's still people who have pointed to say, oh, the audit proved that it was fraud, even though they actually affirmed, you know, Biden's win and said, oh, you actually won by more than we thought.
And yes,
this kind of cross-check with other states is done, you know, to try to find if there's problems and hopefully to build confidence in elections. And when you've got maybe 28 cases out of 3.6, that's not going to make a difference. I mean, you know, elections aren't perfect, as we have all learned, but they, you know, 28 votes or maybe now 3 aren't going to tip an election.
Last point on this, Howie. Judge, I guess, has ruled for Heap, Recorder Heap, in his fight against the Board of Supervisors for IT staff. He says it's a win for him, and he's very excited. The board says it's a win for us because it shows that we still have who wins.
Well, we all win. It's one of those things. Can't we all just get along? This is a question of who has the constitutional and statutory authority to run certain parts of the election. Now, it is clear, as Kate Brophy-McGee said, the board does control the budget, including the budget of the recorder. What the judge said is that doesn't allow you to use your power to take away certain things or to use it as a cudgel to say, you will do it our way or you will not get your money. And so it is a big win for Heap because of the fact that he has insisted all along. Because remember, they changed it under Richer. Richer had that authority. They were so scared of Heap that they took it away, and the judge said, no, you can't do that.
It seems like Heap is having a few victories here on some of these cases. The judges, this particular judge seems to be siding with him more often than not.
Well, I think he's got some good legal help. And, of course, that was a whole separate issue. He hired his own attorney over the objections of the county attorney, said you can't do that. But he's not wrong, because there are reasons you have an elected recorder. You know, we have a state that probably, the question is, should we have an elected recorder, an elected assessor, elected treasurer? Who knows? But we do, and therefore there's a separation of powers.
Last topic here. Jeremy, I know you're very interested in this. The Navajo County Recorder's Office is of primary importance to you. Why?
Not something most of us have probably given much thought to lately, except for they had a vacancy. The recorder not submitted his resignation, and the person who ended up getting the appointment this week is State Representative David Marshall, who represents Navajo County. The problem is a provision of the Arizona Constitution says a state lawmaker cannot hold any other state, county, or municipal position, not just while they're in the legislature, so during the terms to which they've been elected. This comes up pretty regular, and lawmakers say, oh, can I do this, can I do this? And it turns out you can't. And yet, Representative Marshall submitted his letter of resignation to the House today, so it sounds like he intends to move forward with this. I've spoken with a Republican lawyer who tells me, he's like, if he tries to take that job, I'm going to file suit. So I don't see, I've heard some people say, like, well, there's a question, can he take it? I just don't see what the question is.
Isn't he running for Corporation Commission?
Well, I don't know. I mean, he submitted his petitions. His name is going to be on the ballot. We haven't heard anything from Mr. Marshall or Recorder Marshall. I don't know if he's been sworn in yet, but he can't do both of those jobs. You got to pick one.
He's all over.
There's also resigned to run aside from the Constitution. If the Constitution let him, which it won't.
There's a slight legal theory, to get back to Jeremy's point, that the term during the term for which you were elected means if you've quit it, you're no longer in the term to which you were elected.
All right, and we have to quit it right now. Panel, good conversation. Good to have you all here. Thank you so much for joining us. That's it for now. I'm Ted Simons. Thank you so much for joining us. You have a great weekend.
Because kids will always be more curious, Arizona PBS delivers programs that serve as a trusted guide for little explorers. Thanks to you and...
Welcome to Friendship Village. Let me show you around.